Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everybody, from wherever you're tuning in right now to this, basically the last part of the conference. So it is the last session before the closing ceremony. I guess they're gonna give awards and medals to to all the speakers. It's been a fun ride to be part of the marathon. So quite happy to be closing the event. Today we're going to have a session that will be focusing on how you can really build tailored search experiences in modern SharePoint. Um, my name is Sébastien. I am a product lead at Valo, but more on that later. Let's go through the opening slides. So first, we were supposed to be in Las Vegas at this time of the year. So we will be more than happy to join you guys in March next year for the Microsoft 365 Collab Conference. Can't wait for this, where all the products are meeting again in beautiful Las Vegas. Thanks to all the generous sponsors for making this happen. It is really important to get sponsors for these type of events. So thank you, everybody that has contributed to the success of this event. Um, I think you've seen this slide a lot, but I hope that you are winning. You're one of the winners of one of the Oculus Quest. So go and maybe spend the last minutes to go see the vendor booth, submit your answers, and maybe win the raffle. Um, we're also really proud to be part of this charity. If you can donate, please consider donating to the following charity relief funds. I think in these times, this is really important to come all together and work as a big team. As I said, my name is Sébastien. I am from Montreal, Canada, right now sitting in a heat wave where it is currently 42 degrees Celsius or 109 Fahrenheit, depending on where you're from. So quite intense. My AC broke this week, so I'm doing that from my non very comfortable office. But still, I'm enjoying it. So let's go through this. I've been an office development MVP. So I'm mainly focusing on the development side of the house, but in the last couple of years, I've been leading our product strategy and our product team at Valo, where we've been building a ton of experiences on SharePoint, in Teams and SharePoint, in a bunch of different areas, from the intranet to the collaboration, and we've been leveraging search a lot, like really a lot. We've been finding every single bit of what search can offer. And today I wanted to give an overview as a power user. What are the different elements, or how can you really come and customize the experience that you have in SharePoint Online today to really answer the needs of building custom search experiences? So the topic of the day will be really around this. We will be taking the full hour, and I'm really excited to be able to share that with you today. The agenda, fairly simple. The first one, we're going to talk about search. Why do we care about search? And what is SharePoint Search in details? Then afterwards, we're going to go and we're going to do some native experiments. These experiments will be mainly focusing on the out-of-the-box experiences that exist in SharePoint and some tips and tricks on how to use them in a way that will give you maybe a little bit more control, a little bit more power over your search experiences using the native stuff that exists. Then afterwards, we're going to go to the search queries fundamentals. You're going to learn very quickly that search is a beast in Microsoft 365, especially now that Microsoft Search is starting to roll out. And there are some fundamentals that we need to know when we are building those. As a user, maybe you can just get around with a couple of keywords, but I think as a professional user that wants to build experiences, you need to have these search queries fundamentals right there. And finally, we're going to do a little bit of custom. By custom, I mean no code, but by custom, I mean having something that is not what SharePoint is offering out of the box, and how can you really benefit from the full power of SharePoint and search. So let's start with the search, the why, and the what. So why should we care about search? Well, first is to get a holistic view of all the available content. Keep in mind that now with the way Microsoft Teams and SharePoint Online is being architected, you can have as much as 2 million different site collections where your data can reside in. It is quite impressive, but it also means that your content is all over the place. So you want to be able to create search experiences that brings you that holistic view. Then afterwards, why are we in this situation? Why will we have 2 million sites? Well, it looks like it's been a couple of years now that we're living in a flat world. I don't know if you knew about it, but we live in a flat world, especially in the SharePoint world, where we have to think about um, containers or sites as almost like metadata. And we need to bring all of these all together under a single roof. And also, just think about it. If you had to go through all these 2 million sites to find every document that Johnny created last week, that might be a long time for you to get that information. So one of the reasons of why search is important is to provide performance, to provide instant access to any of the data that you have in your environment. So that's the why that we really enjoy using search. But then this can happen on every single type of technology. What is exactly SharePoint Search? What is it under the hood? What is the area why is SharePoint Search so powerful? First, it's because it indexes all of your content that exists in SharePoint and maybe in some other sources. The business applications, business systems, SharePoint can also monitor those. So what does it mean? It means that SharePoint on a routine is indexing your data. It's looking at all your documents, all your list items, all your pages, all your images, all your PDFs, anything you store in SharePoint will get indexed and will automatically be searchable within the index. So instead of having multiple areas, it's now just a big bunch of data in a single area, which is extremely powerful, extremely performant. This data, without anything else around it, feels just like a huge mess. But it is interesting to know that we have some AI infused intelligence in there that help rank and categorize the content. So first, it looks at all the metadata that you have on a file, from the name of a file, the extension of a file, the site, the URL, but also the custom ones. Maybe you're running a project with files and you want to have a project leader that is assigned to a file, a project date, a next milestone, a budget, or anything like that. In this situation, AI will also bring that information inside the index and will make sure that your content is well tagged. Finally, from an AI perspective, there's also some relevancy information in there. Is it relevant to you? Is it relevant to the people you're working with? If so, this document will be higher. If a document was edited by 25 persons that are your direct colleagues, this document will be more meaningful or will be more relevant for you than any other document. And SharePoint Search will make sure that this happens. The beauty of the SharePoint Search is that it's not just a database or an index. It's also providing a powerful interface that allow you to request predictable content using queries with something we call the keyword query language. So you can query this in a way that is predictable. That's like Google, when you put a couple of search terms, you don't exactly know if you're going to find the first result automatically. But if you were able in Google to say, give me all the pages or all the blog articles that are related to SharePoint, that are talking about Microsoft Search, that have been published in the last 2 weeks, then it's a lot more predictable. And that's exactly what the SharePoint Search capabilities offer. And finally, it is natively security trimmed. What does it mean? It means that, well, if you look for something, even though it's not in the container that it was initially, well, now your content is still being secured. So wherever you are, if you're targeting, if you're querying search, it is always secured. You will never find a document that you don't have access to. That being said, if you were around when the first version, the first ever version of Delve came out, people started to use Delve to find documents, colleagues, these kind of things. What happened? Well, what happened is that as soon as people have hit Delve, they're like, why do I see that document? Or why does my colleague see the document I created? Well, that basically highlighted the fact that there was a lot of security by obscurity in SharePoint, hiding documents in a very, very, very deep folder so nobody can find it, but it's actually available for everyone. If you were going through this, you could find it. So it's one of the very important things that we thought that is important in search. You need to have everything secured and you need to make it available. So I know that as soon as people saw that in Delve, people are starting to basically do some security reviews of their own environments. I said earlier that AI was able to find metadata and even provide some of the metadata. Project Cortex is a good example of AI-infused metadata in the documents. But it's really what makes everything relevant. So first, the best way to do it is to group your content using content types. Content types are a great way to group metadata together. If you add a project date and a project due date and a project budget and a project leader to all of your documents, why wouldn't you group this as a project and assign the content type project to your documents or pages or sites or whatsoever? That will make it easier later on because you will be able to say, you know what, I don't want to find all the project leaders, I want to find all the projects, and you will be able to list all the information around it. So really important, content types. Then also you have to understand that the metadata can be set on items and on documents, on list items, on tasks, on contacts, but also on folders and on sites. It's a little bit less of an easy way to do it, but if you have a developer not so far, these are also possible to be tagged. That means that you can tag a site, you can categorize a site, and this is really important because then afterwards you can use some rules to give me all the sites that were tagged with project. It could be interesting to build, I don't know, a project hub, for instance. Finally, something really important is the fact that metadata is always different. It's always similar but different at the same time. So you need to have a way to centralize and standardize the way that metadata is being used. And I do highly recommend you look at the site scripts and site designs, which are a way to apply kind of enforcing a metadata on a site or on a team. That way, all the team shares the same content types, the same columns, the same metadata, and now everybody can then bring this to the next level without having to ask themselves, should I tag it? Should I not tag it? I don't see the column. Where's the column? Now we automate everything using site scripts and site design. When all these documents will be found, SharePoint will be crawling them. We'll go and find a column and get the value and sync it in the index. You will be able to, in a predictable way, get the name of that property to automatically search for it. So you don't have to rename or whatsoever. You're going to know exactly what's the name of the field or the property you're looking for. You can also map multiple columns to the same managed property. A good example is the column title. The column title in SharePoint means a title, but in some areas will also mean a document name. So with the extension, with like the ASPX or .docx or whatsoever. So they can have multiple ones that are mapped together, and the first one it finds in the order that you specify will be the one that's going to be used. So it is a very powerful construct that you can use to build your search, to kind of customize your search experience, to really tailor it to the exactly where you need it. You can also, everything can be queried, sorted, refined, filtered, searched. So it's really how you get to these predictable queries that we're going to have in a second. Let's start with the native experiment. So now we know a little bit what is search, why should we care about search, but why do we care about the native experiments? Well, because SharePoint has a lot to offer by default. First, you have, I think, four different areas that build your toolkit. The first one is the SharePoint modern search experience. The second one is the quick links. I'm going to explain to you why I think this is a great tool for search, especially combined with the first one, the SharePoint modern search experience. The third one is the highlighted content web part. And the fourth one, since this week or the week before, now we have the ability to specify custom search queries on the news web part, which was not possible until very, very not long ago. But then there's a challenge. The challenge is the fact that we will not have some of the, I would say, most popular and at the same time most hated features we had with SharePoint Classic, which was the capability of filtering, or as I should say, refining the search experience. I'm going to explain that in a second. So this is something that you're going to feel that when you're building a search experience, you want to have a first landing page where you have data, but you want to also go further in that data. And there's not a lot of capabilities available today in SharePoint. So let me go in my demo that is right here. We will be building a project hub, and I don't think the timing can be better than that. We are right now in a situation where, with the COVID and everything, every professional sport just stopped. And now the NHL, which is my favorite sport, hockey, ice hockey, is now planning on going back to the playoffs. They are preparing this, so they probably have that. A project hub where every single team has their own space where they can prepare the project, and want to make sure that from a league perspective, we can see everything that is happening, making sure everybody is on track. So how do we build this? Well, we'll build this using search, because there's multiple teams that are all secured. So we want to make sure that it's not all within the same container. So that's our scenario here. I said the first tool was the modern search components. Well, how do you get to that search component, or to the main search component? The first thing you do, you go to SharePoint. You go to the top left of SharePoint here, and you go here. I already have a query in there. I'm going to remove it. I'm going to search for Montreal. Oh, that's interesting. Let me maybe reload. There we go. It's a lot better, a lot cleaner, actually. What do I have here? Well, I have a couple of things. Well, I have files, documents, pages. I have users that might be tagged. I have some news right here at the bottom. This is our out-of-the-box search experience. And you're going to see that this experience is following you along on every site you go. So it's great, because everywhere you are, you will always have the latest and greatest. Even better, when you search in a library, you're going to get the content of that library. When you're in a site, you're going to get the content of that site. When you're in a hub, you're going to get the content of that hub. And when you're in a tenant, you're going to get all the content from all over the place. There are default areas, or default verticals, or silos of data. There's the files. That is this one here. So only files will be shown in here. In that case, I only have one. We have sites, we have people, and we have news. These are the ones that are coming out of the box. With Microsoft Search, it is possible to add external connectors that will be shown there, but these will bring data from other systems like ServiceNow or any other line of business system. So not really what we're looking for. In our case, what we have also is top right, we have filters. So I'm going to go here and I'm going to hit filter. And I don't know if you've ever seen a refiner or a refinable experience in SharePoint Classic. That was definitely more than just one selection here. Something also maybe, okay, I'm going to do something. I'm going to go to File. Well, okay, I really only have that. I'm going to go to Sites. Maybe I don't even have a refiner for Sites. I don't even have a refiner for people either. So this is really one of the limiting factor of the experience that exists in SharePoint Search. We don't really have that refinable experience, and this is really where I think we're falling short. I told you also that I really liked one of the things, which is our the quick links to kind of leverage a little bit more of the search experience. So let me go back to my project hub, which is right here. In my project hub, I have something right on top at the right. It says news about Contoso. Could be news about whatever. In that case, could be about the NHL, could be about Montreal, could be about whatever you want. But what is that button? It's a very simple button. It is just a link, you know, in the end, that's what it is. So if I go and edit this web part and I edit this link here, it is actually a link to a vertical and to a query. So in that case, I just use the full URL to my roots and to my SharePoint home that uses Contoso as a query and the vertical search /news. So if I republish this and I click on news about Contoso, I am being redirected to the root of my tenant, utilizing the news vertical and automatically having it to Contoso. So if the only thing you want to provide is quick links to pre-filtered search queries, it is definitely 100% possible. The good thing also about this is it is possible to use some queries. We're going to go a little bit deeper in queries later, but you will be able to do something like file extension equals star.pdf. Is it file extension? It might not be file extension. It had to fail, you know. That's how it is. Let me check something here. Path contains .pdf. Interesting. Oh, I'm in the news. That's why it's not working. There we go. I'm just gonna do something like file path /site/project like this. Well, it looks like today I forgot about all my things. I'm going to come back to these when I'm going to teach you on how to build those queries. Sorry about that. But you will be able to monitor those. And the cool thing is you will be able to use the query right there, copy the query, go back to the search hub or to wherever you want to go. I'm going to go to my project hub here. And let's say that instead of using this one, I want to use this one right there. I just use from a link, this one here, and now we are good to go. Just change this. So quite useful, extremely powerful because the users, they don't have to remember any of this, and you just provided a new experience. What else? We also have the out-of-the-box highlighted content web part. The highlighted content web part is the key to building powerful solutions. So the first thing you're going to do, you're going to edit the page, and we're going to go back. See here, we have an highlighted content web part right here, where you can select two options. The first one is a filter, and the second one is the query. The query is a custom query that you're going to build. In that case, we're going to use the KQL or the keyword query language to do it. But we're going to come back to this later on because I want to start with what's available kind of out of the box. So first, you can select the source. Let me just do this for a second. You can select the source. You can select the type of content you want, and there's a lot of types. So documents, pages, videos, images, events, issues, tasks, links, contacts, and all. In my case, I wanted to just have the news. Then afterwards, you can also filter the content. So here you see there's a VGK players. Let's say that I only want to have content that talks about VGK. So I can go here. The title includes the word VGK. Then I can just go here, and now I have 2 of them. You see, just 2 of them. Okay, so that's the first thing you can do. Let me remove it and come back to all the content. So we're back to 7. You can also, if the content includes something, so as the part of the content of the page, all the content of a page, of a document, of a list item will be indexed. So if it's in there, you can also do this. Here it's interesting. You can say it's recently added this month, earlier this month. So it means that you can restrict the number of content based on popularity or based on dates. So latest documents earlier this month, it means the last 30 days, you're good to go. You can also use recently changed, similar, created by and modified by, which you select a user, or you can also say current user. So my documents, my files, my news, you can all build these interfaces with using those. But if you want to go crazy and you want to go full custom, you can also use the last option. The last option is called managed property. When you go to managed property here, you will actually see, okay, well, you're going to find a managed property. And here, let's say that I want to have title or site title. I want to, okay, so I see here site title. You need to know a little bit where you're going when you're using this interface. There's a list of available managed properties. So basically the managed properties are all the different information that SharePoint knows about your content, everything. From a project leader to a file path, to a file name, to a date, to a site title, everything is in there. And here you can just say where the site title contains Las Vegas. Now what we just did is we decided that we will be limiting the content based on the site title, which in a lot of the cases, you're actually not in a lot of the cases, but if you're using teams, your site title will always match the name of your team. So it could be a team name that you put here. So here, give me all the content that are news from the hub that have the site title Las Vegas. And you can add many queries. If you are using 2 times the word site or the managed property site title, let me go here and use site title here. It's going to automatically show it for me. Contains Montreal. Well, here, instead of doing just site title Las Vegas, it's going to do site title Las Vegas or site title Montreal. And you will be able to build these powerful queries directly from there. Now, I told you earlier that we had the option to also import or add our own custom queries. Well, in that case, here, let me look at what it means. Here you see that you can select this site or this document library or all sites in the hub. I'm going to start by all sites in the hub. And earlier, I was selecting that I wanted to have content that are news. So how do I know that content is news? Well, I know that promoted state has to equal 1 or promoted state has to equal 2. These are, okay, a little bit of a technical term, but these means that we have content that is either in draft, which is the promoted state 1, or has been published, which is promoted state 2. Then afterwards, I can also, so this is the first one, then I can say, and site title contains Las Vegas, or site title contains Montreal. I'm going to put them between parentheses, so it's going to be a full and. And now we're going to find a single one. Let me just do, actually, I'm going to put them into quotes just to make sure it gets the entire area here. Logically, I should find all my documents being shown in there. So that query text is something that you can, as I said earlier, you can use it also these queries, not only in this area, but you can use them in this area here. So if I'm copying this, or let me just do, I'm just gonna do the Las Vegas one. So I'm gonna do this like this. I'm gonna just remove this guy here, and I'm gonna hit send. Oh, I'm not gonna do that here. I'm gonna go back to the root, and I'm gonna do it here. You see, I just found my news that is on the that is a promoted state 1 or 2, and the site title equals Las Vegas. So really powerful, because now I can take this, go back to my site that I had. I'm going to change the news equals Contoso to include this URL. I will be able to put it right in here. In that case, let me actually do it for real. I'm going to go in here. I'm going to just do a quick test here. I will be using this as a way to copy the URL. That's how I am cheating a little bit. I'm going to go from a link. I'm going to do Q equals promoted state is 1 or promoted state is 2, and site title Las Vegas. And then I can just hit open. And now I'm just going to news about Vegas. And automatically, when I will be clicking on it, I will be able to go right here, and it's going to show me these right here. So quite powerful things you can do. The same thing that I just showed you, you can also do it with the new capabilities that are available in the news website. Let's go back to slides for a little bit. The search query fundamentals, I'm going to spend like 3 minutes on these just to give you quite quick ideas of what can be doable. First, you can always search. It's using keywords. That's what the users are mainly doing, and usually they find okay content. So can put any word, it's going to find for all of them. But what does it mean? It means that when you have a John Smith, it's actually John or Smith, because you don't specify that you want to have specifically John and Smith, but you can do it by this. John and Smith will automatically make sure you have only the content that includes both John and Smith in the property or in document you're looking for. You can also specify John or Smith. When you really know exactly what you're looking for, maybe you want to have John or Smith, you're going to be able to do that. You will also be able to say, I want John, but I don't want Smith. So you can say John, not Smith. Or you can actually use the hyphen just before a word. So it could be John hyphen Smith or minus Smith. It means it removes the word from the query. It excludes any time Smith will be in a document, it's not going to be able to be found because that's what you're looking for. You will also be able to find specifically what you're looking for. In that case, you want to have exactly the query. So here, it's going to have to include John Smith, but not John and Smith somewhere else in the document. No, you want to have John Smith as 2 words separated by a space character. We'll also be able to use some prefix matching for the wildcard. So you will be able to do MAR asterisk Smith. It means that anything that is starting with MAR and also contains Smith, then you're going to be able to have Margaret Smith, Mary Smith, automatically. These will be automatically there. Here, you will be able to use the property query operators equals. The equal means that we want to have exactly this value. So in that case, the file extensions equal doc, and I just found what my error was because I was not using the equal, I was using the contains. earlier. That's why I was not able to find all my PDFs. In that case, a good example is the docx, which is the new version, or new, it's been a while already, but the latest version of the doc files are docx. If I do this, I will not be able to find my docx file. So I will be able to do though, file extensions equals doc, or file extension equals docx, and now I will be able to find this specifically, the docx version of it. I will also be able to use contains and match it with a wildcard operator. So as you can see, one of the ways that is, I think, the best way to query data is through the content type. Content types have a way to support hierarchy. So you can put a content type and inherit from another content type. And the way it works is you can query a content type by its ID and say, I want to have content type that starts with all these weird characters and add a star at the end. So for instance, if this content type was a site page, the ID of a site page, by the way, every single tenant or every single content type have the same ID from one tenant to the other. So if they always have the same IDs, I can just say anything that is a site page, even if it has been customized by a user, even if it has been improved with other columns, you will be sure that this will bring some data. So in that case, site pages all the site pages, even the custom pages or the party pages or the project pages will be found by this. You will also be able to use almost math characters here, especially on date. So anything here that was last modified after the 1st of May will show up. Same thing with smaller than, smaller or equal, greater or equal, these kind of things. So you will be able to build these queries. Now have the ability to build these queries directly in the experience that I just showed, the custom experience of the out-of-the-box ones. But still, you're a little bit in a way that you're kind of stuck. You're stuck in a structure that does not allow you to customize the UI or customize the way the results are appearing, or you cannot even filter the results after the initial query. So what can we do? What can we really do? What we can do is to go and do some custom experiments. And the community will help us a lot in here. First, the community will come to the rescue. There is a community in the SharePoint space that is called the PNP. PNP for Patterns and Practices. This community enables everybody for free to use some community-driven solutions that solves common problems. One of the most, I would say, critical problem is the modern search experience. So the modern search experience is lacking, and we know it, but there is a solution called the modern search that is built by the PNP team, which helps you build those rich experiences, have ways of customizing the templates using CSS and JavaScript and HTML, have pagination, have verticals, have multiple refiners and all of these things. So you will be able to use it. That's really cool. So before we go into the lifesaver tools and tricks, let me go and show you what is that PNP thing. So since the beginning, I've been using that homepage, but I don't know if you've noticed, but there's also a homepage called Home PNP that is, I think, a little bit better, looks a little bit better. So first, we have here the latest news. We have the trending projects at the bottom. We have on the right the latest projects with latest projects that have issues. So all of these ways of presenting the data are not out of the box SharePoint. They're not offered as part of the SharePoint out of the box experiences. So what are these? These are configurable web parts where you can specify what is your query, how do you want it to be listed, and all these kind of things. So let me go here and do edit on that guy and show you. So first, what is my query? But my query is, I just want to have the thing that are promoted state 2. As I said earlier, promoted state 2 means it published news. Okay, cool. So I will only retrieve the promoted state 2, the published news. Then here, I can do a little bit more than just that. So I can also say that my main query is I want to have just this query, but you can also prepare the web part to be a little bit more intelligent and to say, you know what, I'm going to use that search terms, promoted state 2, but I'm going to also add this query here. What is it? The department ID is a hub site. The hub site is built on that property. Every single content in a search, in a site that has a hub, will be filled with the current hub ID. And I can even get it through this nice tool here. So page context.hub site ID. So it can be generic. Depending on where you are, you will always have the ability to have this data. You can then afterwards decide on how you want to sort. Do you want to select multiple properties to be there? You want to have refinement? Do you want to have synonyms of a word? A good example is a computer here could become a laptop, a desktop with a monitor. So that way people can search for content and automatically the search will be intelligent enough to understand that, hey, you know what? You asked for computer, I know laptop, I'm going to give you a laptop. So these are all configurable. You want to have 10 items, 100 items, whatever here, you can do that. And at the end, we get to a point where you will be able to see different layouts, out of the box layouts. The first one is a simple list. So it just basically provides this here. Afterwards, there's a details list, tiles, similar to what SharePoint has out of the box, a carousel that has multiple areas here. All of this without any code. You can customize the query like crazy. You decide whatever you want. This is all native to the platform. From people, in that case, I don't have people, so it's not really useful. If you're a little bit of a geek, you can also use the debug one, and you can actually see what is being brought back by the SharePoint search. And now here there's a bunch of queries. And at the end, if I'm not mistaken, there's going to be your results. Well, actually, I mean, yeah, I should see results. I would see, maybe because give me a second. No, maybe because I clicked on, there you go. It automatically did that. Oh, that's not fun. I'm just gonna do undo, actually. I'm gonna go back to this and undo again. And there you go. I'm just gonna go back here. Debug, now I have all my items that are right in here. So if you want to see what's underneath or what are different properties you have access to, like the site logo or the picture thumbnail URL or the highlight summary or the file type, you will be able to do this. Where it really shines is the ability to use a custom template. And in my case, that's why I see it as a custom template, because I've been using CSS and HTML at the end to really build this. And this is really why this is absolutely phenomenal. This brings back the full potential of search right back in SharePoint. So you can decide how you want your data to be displayed. You want to decide what is the content of that data, not just what Microsoft decides to show you, but what is the content that is in there. And it is fairly simple. You don't need to have a master's in software development to do it. You might need to be a little bit tech savvy and understand what is HTML and how loops are working. But besides that, it's quite simple. I'm almost comparing it to someone I would do a Power App. It's not more complicated than that because you don't really have to care about the query part of it. You just have to display the content. So that's a really great tool that you have access to. If you want to get access to this site, it's quite very simple. You're going to go on to github.com/pnp. It is a GitHub solution where you will be able to find, let me do this. you will be able to go here and search for solution. You're gonna find, if I was not typing, you're gonna find the SPDev solutions. And in there, you will find some ready-made solutions for you, including the modern search. And in there, you will also be able to, actually, if you go back to the SPDev, you will find releases, and you will be able to download the latest version of it directly from there. Everything is in there. It's all ready for you to be downloaded. So you don't have to know how to code, or you don't have to know how to make it happen. Everything is already done for you. You don't have to care about this. You just download the packages. You give the packages to your SharePoint administrator, and they will be able to add it to your tenant, and you're going to be able to leverage it right from there. Something even better. What about, and as you can imagine, all the other web parts are built exactly the same way. What if I was able to use, you remember, I really like this search bar here because it search across everything. But when if you're in a regular tenant or regular environment, you would search here, you would get the native search experience. And that's not what you want, because you really want to have these refiner experiences. And that's why we now have the ability. Right now, this is in targeted release only. So it's only if your tenant is a little bit early, if you allow targeted components in there. You can go and you can search across sites. You can go here and you can, I don't know, search for Montreal. What's going to happen? I'm actually being redirected to not the root of my tenant. I'm redirected here to a custom site, or not a custom site, a custom page that was built using the PNP controls. As you can see here, it is a fairly customized view of it. And I have here a new component, filters. But I can say, hey, you know what? I want to have London, and I want to have created before the May 29th, and it was created by Sébastien. And now if I go back here, I just found all that content that was automatically created, published, and filtered using the refinement experience of the search capabilities of our environment provided by PNP Modern Search. This is really where you want to invest your time and your money when you're doing customized search experiences. All native. It is a project that is being backed by Microsoft, so Microsoft is heavily involved in that PNP Modern Search. So don't be too afraid of this. It is it's not supported by Microsoft, but it's well encouraged by Microsoft, I would say. So I really want you to kind of, I want you to understand from this is that it is an extremely powerful capabilities that are now available to you. And we're really happy that these are now available as part of the PNP, because it really saves a lot of headaches these days. Let me go back to the slides for the last slide of the deck. Full of tips and tricks. First, if you are looking into playing around with more on the techie side of things, there's a SharePoint Search query tool that allows you to build your own search queries. Same thing with the REST API tester, which allows you to test how your query will look like within a site or within any component in SharePoint. If you are using a team site or a Teams-backed team site, and you cannot find your custom properties, you added a project lead property, but SharePoint cannot find it, there's never any data, make sure you add yourself as a site owner to this site collection, because if you don't, you won't automatically, the properties will not be triggered. Not all tenants have this problem, but we've seen that a lot in the last couple of months. Finally, if you want to do exactly the same thing as I did today, but you want to target it to people, when you target to people, you could do a people directory directly from the data that exists in the SharePoint user profile, though it takes a long time to index. So there are some scripts that will help you a little bit fasten this using a PowerShell script, and it's called the SharePoint Online Trigger Reindex script. Thank you so much for joining me today as the last session of the marathon. Please, I want to have your feedback, and I know that the organizers will also want to have feedback on the event. So please feel free to send that to me. I'll be happy to be better, to improve, and make sure that these sessions are always helpful for you guys. I wanted to thank you so much. It was a blast to be there. I'm looking now here. Is there any current questions? Looks like it's not loading on my end. We don't have any questions so far. It's okay. Feel free to add them in the Q&A. I'm going to monitor them. And until then, I will wish you a great end of the marathon. There's the closing ceremony happening right now, and there's a SharePoint happening right after. So everybody, thank you so much for being there, and I wish you a great day. Cheers, everybody.